Welcome, everybody, to the 2023 first show of the year at the Tojo Dojo for Pig's Ear in Review. I'm Myshtuff, joined by Riku Rose. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, mate. New year, new me. How are you?
Good, good. Any resolutions?
No. I'm quite happy if I want to change sync doing it, even if it's May.
Well, we're about 1 week in, and I definitely didn't keep a dry January type of I didn't keep any resolutions, to be fair, because at this point, it's not worth it. So.
No, at my age, I'm just waiting for death.
It's all. We've already passed the hump here. Let's just go straight.
Yeah.
Just fuck it. But I figured, for this prestigious event, our first ever top 3 year in review, I would get the finest Cabernet Sauvignon red wine at roughly 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
And I have what they call Coca-Cola original taste.
What's the vintage on that one?
Post New Coke.
Okay. Oh, oof, that's a sore subject for many. So today we were going to go over our top 3 games of 2022. Keep in mind the games that we played. So if there was something that we didn't play, then we're not going to rank it because that would be unfair and not
Or
make sense.
it means you hated it,
Oh,
and you will
clearly.
not clarify.
Yeah, actually, that's fair. I hate every game I didn't touch. They're all garbage,
Yeah.
every one of them.
Yeah. I only play good games.
Yeah, clearly, because we've talked about so many. But the other thing is, it's also games that came out last year. So I know we both played games from previous years this past year, but unfortunately, those aren't counting. We're just going to be counting the games that actually came out last year. So, but yeah, we've played a bunch. I don't know, anything else to add to that as far as the criteria, if I missed anything?
No, I think let's get into it and let's find out who's right and who's wrong.
Oh, clearly, yeah, exactly. Get everybody's
Let's find out who the
best.
comment section is going to hate.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait. All right, we'll start us off. Go for it.
Okay, so we haven't actually revealed these lists to each other beforehand, so we're going in.
Yeah.
Although I think I know what's going to be your number one. So number 3 for me is Mario Strikers Battle League.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't sound too sure about that.
No, I did not play this game other than the demo that came out until December, I want to say. So it was a late entry. Right. So I got the game back when it came out, and for some reason it just always sat in the shrink wrap.
Yeah.
Didn't touch it. Whatever. Had some people around to watch the World Cup, and they were like, oh, saw the Switch, and they were like, what games have you got, or whatever. And someone was like, oh, I used to love Mario Strikers on the GameCube. And I was like, oh, yeah. And we just unwrapped it, and we started playing it, and we sat there for a few hours playing it. And is the game itself amazing? No, it's good. But it's the experience of playing like a Mario sport style game. And there's certain ones that just involve making the room into absolute mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's with any Mario, not literally just Mario Party, but any party-style Mario game. I feel like that happens every single time.
Like when people are jumping out of the sofa cheering and stuff.
Yeah.
It was an absolute laugh. Like, how do you score that? Stuff like that. And it was great. And then at Christmas, I had family round, and then my brother-in-law yet again was like, "Oh, what games do you have?" And I was, went through it again. He's like, "Oh, I've never played Mario Strikers." I'm like, "Let's get on it." We played it for a few more hours. Like, it was just an absolute laugh both times. And I'm sure if I was like a reviewer for a website and like had to sit in a room and play this on my own for a few hours, I'd be like, like 6 out of 10 type game. But it's the experience of playing it in a room filled with people, and you're all shit talking each other, and you're all having an absolute laugh.
Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of those party Mario style games, or even the Switch sports games, I feel like it's going to sound bad to say, if you ever play those on your own, I feel like that's depressing. But if you have, like what you said, though, if you have a good group of people to play with, they become some of the best games you'll ever remember. Because to your point, it is that experience and the memories around that. It's not the actual necessarily the gameplay per se.
Yeah, it's going to sound mean, but if you're like 25, living in an apartment on your own, and no one ever comes around, like, don't get this game at all.
This will make your mental health worse somehow.
Yeah, you're just going to feel even lonelier.
Are you saying I can't put out some cardboard cutouts next to me and have computers play?
Yay! But if you're like in a college dorm or something, like this would just be absolute amazingness,
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend it, depending on your situation.
I love how that's a clarification you have to give.
It's true though. I think I've told you before.
Yeah.
I love Mario Kart, and
Yeah.
like I got like Mario Kart on the Wii or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
People were coming around playing it all the time. It was a great time. And then when Mario Kart on the Wii U came out, I was like, well, Mario Kart, like, fucking love Mario Kart. I'm buying
Yeah.
this. Went to the store, bought it, came home, played it on my own for like an hour, and then realized no one comes around my house to play Mario Kart anymore. And it was just like one of the saddest realizations ever.
Do you hear that noise? It's the world's smallest violin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, I'm the same way as you. Like, I don't play it that often, but yeah, when you have a good group of people, it's a fun time for sure.
Yeah. All right. So number 3 for you.
Nice. So I also had to do a little bit of digging because I know you said you kind of reviewed your games on PlayStation and Switch to kind of come up with your list. And I honestly just in general for this list, I had to look up like what games actually came out last year because I had to remember. And then I was looking through some, and this number 3, I kind of had to remember because I kind of forgot that it came out last year already, but it's a
This
great
sounds like a
game.
ringing endorsement, whatever
I
it is.
know, but like I feel like there was okay, keep in mind I played a lot of catch up last year for different games that came out in previous years as well. So I think that's why I kind of got lost in the shuffle for a minute. But when I thought about it again, I remembered, oh no, I had a blast playing this game, and that is Roller Drome.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so for anyone who didn't watch that episode or is not familiar with it, the best way I can describe it is that it's a crossover between Jet Set Radio, Tony Hawk, Max Payne, and the 1970s classic Rollerball starring James Caan. I mean, like, legitimately, it really is. And it's just a crazy drop in and drop out like type of game where you could play it for 20 minutes and then go about your day or whatever you need, because it's that arcade style gameplay where you're just skating around shooting enemies and doing tricks. Like, it's a goofy concept by its nature, but it's just a fun game, and I have gone back to play it a couple of times since we originally talked about it. And I don't think any new content per se has come out of it because it was a fairly self-contained release. But as I said at the time, if they would do more downloadable content, like more levels or story or whatever, or if they announce a sequel or anything like that, I would 100% play that one. So yeah, really for this one, to be honest, it's all about the style and just the fun drop in, drop out gameplay, arcadey style. So not a whole lot to say about it in terms of its story, even though there's loosely one in the background about like political upheaval for this game
I
going
mean, you
on.
don't play Tony Hawk for the story.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it does have a very memorable style because it's like cell shaded graphics, and it's a cool soundtrack. Like, um, I don't know what the best way to call it, like synthy dystopian kind of music, I suppose, like 80s. So, but yeah, the game was awesome. It's probably even cheaper now. Probably you could get it for $15. I would have to
I think
guess.
I saw it. So if you have one of the PlayStation Plus tiers that are like extra or something like that, I think you get it free through that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I would highly recommend this game. It's fun, um, especially if you like those old style, like I said, Tony Hawk, Jet Set Radio, kind of level based, quick gameplay type of thing. You really can't go wrong with it. So that is for sure my number 3 for the year.
Okay.
All right, back to you.
One that we spoke about recently.
Uh-huh.
Crisis Core hyphen Final Fantasy VII hyphen Reunion
With Knuckles.
with.
That'll never get old to me.
But I don't think this should be a surprise. Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game ever. I just love that world. I'm
Yeah.
not big on sort of when it went overly anime. with like the movie and like Crisis Core.
Yeah.
Um, but there's just something fun about that world to me, and I just love it so much.
Hmm.
And I kind of forgot about this game. Like I
Hmm.
played it back when it came out on the PSP. If you
Hmm.
had asked me to tell you what happened, I probably could have told you the ending scene and nothing else.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice to go through it again and experience it again, like it
Mhm.
was new and fresh. Because I didn't remember a lot of the twists and turns outside of the ending.
Yeah, and it was
Um,
like I said, it was my first time playing through it, and since we last spoke about it, I have now finished it. Granted, I didn't do all of the side missions, but I at least got through more of them, and then through the main story. So, and I do still stay by what we said. With it was a great game. It was fun. I had a good time playing it.
it's also quite quick and easy. It's not
Oh
a
yeah,
tough game. I think if you really just beeline it through the main story, you could probably do it in 10 hours.
I think I've even with doing side missions, only maybe 20% of them. I think my final playtime was like 9.5 hours, something
Oh,
like that.
really?
I think
Wow.
I think so, roughly. I mean, I went kind of quick through it, I guess.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing to me all the time. We always
No.
talk about how sometimes we like short but sweet,
Hmm.
like stories or movies, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it's one I'm like going to go back to a lot or anything like that, but it's also just nice to have it on modern consoles.
Yeah.
Granted,
Exactly.
you've got to be into Final Fantasy VII to enjoy this, or at least have played it in some way. I feel like
Hmm.
you're not going to get a lot out of this game. I feel like if it's your first game in the series.
Yeah, I know a lot of times when I revisit or visit franchises for the first time that have then since come out with prequels and sequels,
Hmm.
I actually do try and do it chronologically, like prequel first,
Hmm.
then regular and sequel, as much as I reasonably can. But yeah, with this one, I don't know what you would get. I don't know if it would be maybe make the best first impression. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's my number two. Bit
Mhm.
biased in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. Mhm.
All right. So number two for yourself.
All right, number two is gonna be God of War Ragnarok.
Oh,
This, I mean,
oh boy.
I know, boy. I gotta practice. My throat's a little dry right
Yeah.
now. Maybe after a little more wine, I can say it better. Um, yeah, this game, kind of like I said, not when we talked about it the other week. Even though the focus of this and the last one really isn't that different from the original series of games, they really did take these in a more focused direction and more story intensive, I guess I'll say, but also in an area that we haven't really seen before, Greek mythology versus Norse mythology. And the like the story of this game still sticks with me. And literally the other day, I actually almost even quoted the game from something Kratos said to someone else because like it just happened, like the situation just arose or something happened where I could be like,
You
oh
just on
yeah,
the bus and just went, boy.
boy.
Stay away from my
Exactly.
child.
Get
Run.
away! Why are you doing this to me? But yeah, like the gameplay was just super tight. It's one of those rare instances where a AAA game does deliver on launch and is not a complete broken dumpster fire like some games
Hey, it
do.
only takes $200 million in 5 years, and you can do it too.
It's true. Yeah, it's so easy. Here, follow my 13-step plan right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, without completely repeating everything I said during the review, it was like a perfect game to me, perfect sequel to the last one. Story was great, gameplay was fun. I was engaged the whole time. I think it took me, what did I say, maybe 20, 25 hours, where it wasn't like too short, but it wasn't like super long, where I don't think it overstayed its welcome. And yes, even though it's going to help to play just the most recent previous one, uh, you're not going to go wrong with playing that one either. As like if that's your starting point for that one, and then leads directly into this one, and then what else? It's a nice two set of games. Doesn't have to be a trilogy. They're not dragging out the story. I mean, I can't say a whole lot bad about this game, and it is memorable. Like I will,
Hmm.
it's one of those situations that I think we also mentioned before, where should replayability affect how you rate something? And even though I'm not sure if I'll necessarily play these games again, or if not for a long time, they are going to stick with me, I will say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think I said before when we spoke about that is some of my favorite games I only ever played once,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if I ever will go back to them. Also, as you get older as well, you kind of respect your time a bit more. Listen here, kids, there's some boomer facts for you. Um, the idea of replaying something you've played a million times isn't as appealing as it was when you're 14 and you're bored.
Right. Right.
Or like, how many TV shows like I watched Lost when it came out, like on
Yeah.
TV, and then I was like, oh, it'd be fun to watch again. And then I looked, and it's like 250 episodes, and I'm like, I could watch something else.
Yeah, well, it's funny because given that like I love Star Trek so much, I know people who talk about series rewatches, and not even just series, but franchise rewatches, and my fucking head explodes when I
Hmm.
hear someone talk about that. Like, I will rewatch individual episodes of Star Trek or maybe small arcs, but the
Hmm.
idea of rewatching an entire series to me blows my mind. Like, I can't fathom that. So I get what
Yeah.
you mean.
No.
Um, but anyways, yes. So God of War Ragnarok, definitely number two. I had a blast playing it. It's incredible. I don't know if this story necessarily needs a continuation per se, but it would be great to see this team just do something else. Like the overall, I think it's Santa Monica studio under Sony that made this. Like
Hmm.
they've focused on this and the last God of
It's too
War.
successful.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be more, but it would be nice for just this studio just to try something else first and then maybe come back to it later on. Sure. It's just clearly a talented group of people. Like they did an amazing job.
You know what else would be nice? Communism, but it doesn't work.
Fuck, you know what? I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
You got me. So, anyways, God of War Ragnarok, definitely number two. Highly recommend. All right, over to you.
All right. So I think we said we're going to throw in some honourable mentions. Um, Main
Hmm.
one I want to throw in is the Quarry.
Hmm.
That probably would have been my fourth if we
That
did
was one of
fourths.
my honorable mentions, actually, was the quarry.
Yeah, yeah. I just really enjoy these, and yeah, again, we talk about length and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I love these sort of choose your own adventure
Yeah,
type games. It's just a funny, and I tell you what, I used to really like as well is like the Telltale ones
yeah. Hmm.
is seeing how different your stories could be. I know most of them end the same way,
Sure, sure.
but it's nice to have a story that feels like it's personalized to you.
Really quick, sorry, quick side tangent. Since you mentioned Telltale, so later this year, there's a Star Trek Telltale style game coming
Hmm.
out around the era of like the next generation, and I believe it's made up of former Telltale members, I think, or
Yeah, that company's in
somehow
some weird kind of limbo. I don't know what's going on there.
something like that. But it's essentially Telltale style game with maybe a little bit more action, and I'm curious how that's going to work out. But I'm also curious though, since you like those style of games, would you ever consider playing that game?
No, because I feel like that's something you've got to at least have a toe in.
Bastard.
Because
I
what was
thought I
it?
was
It was
going to
like
kill you.
they did like Tales from the Borderlands, and I'd
Hmm.
never played a Borderlands game,
Yeah.
so I was like, yeah, I don't need to play this.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, sorry. Side tangent. Go on.
But no, I'd say if you really like, if you're into horror movies, I'd suggest it. Not
Hmm.
necessarily even into these type of games,
Hmm.
but if you love your cheesy sort of like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street type of 80s horror, I'd
Hmm.
say like give this a go.
Yeah, like my wife and I, as I've said before, we watch horror movies all the time, and then I played this with her in the room like throughout the whole time. And yeah, even though she like I was just playing, we were deciding things together, and she was like yelling at the screen as as shit was going on. So yeah, it's just a fun time as well. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Any others for you?
I have a few, so I'm just gonna say a couple honorable mentions that I think some of these games would have ended up maybe in like a top five for me. So they just kind of miss it for me a little bit. Like I had great times playing these games, but yeah, they weren't like completely blown out of the water. Like holy shit, this is something that I'm gonna play for the rest of my life type of situation. So some honorable mentions for me were Stray that I played
Hmm.
recently. I thought that was unique, fun, good time. I would recommend it, but yeah, not necessarily a top three game. Ghostwire Tokyo was almost number three. I think it was fun. and it was good. It was memorable, but it wasn't necessarily the most revolutionary thing. I mean, it was just another semi-open world shooting game essentially. So it didn't it wasn't like the craziest thing for me. Bayonetta 3 was definitely a good one, but similar. I've played other Bayonettas. It didn't completely change the landscape per se, but it was still like a well-made game and it was fun. And then the last honorable mention is kind of a weird one because technically it came out in late 2021, but it got brought over physically to PlayStation last year, which I bought because I loved it, which was Psychonauts 2.
Oh, yeah.
So that game technically came out late 2021 digitally, and then mostly on Xbox, I think first, or it was only physical Xbox but digital PlayStation because Microsoft bought the studio out, so they had some exclusivity. But then the physical PlayStation came out in August, and I bought that. And I don't think I ever talked about that on here either. But Psychonauts is a great series of games, and the new one was awesome as well. So I would recommend those two.
But it doesn't count, so we have to cut this part out of the video.
Yeah, actually, let's just start over. Screw the whole video, actually. So anyways, so there's some honorable mentions, but I know you and I, like I said, we definitely played games from previous years this past year. So there's all kinds of other good games that we could have mentioned too. But yeah, okay. So back over to you. Drum roll for number one.
My number one of the year of 2022 is Triangle Strategy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, the game, I tell you what, when I spoke about it, I was talking about how much I loved it and stuff like that. I will say after that, I finished it, and the ending's a little weak, but I think the journey as a whole is really fun. I love the battle style of the tactics style games where it's like a chessboard essentially.
Yeah.
Those battle systems are just always going to be fun to me. I just love them. And the story is actually really fun and actually deals with some themes that I feel like a lot of games would be scared to deal with. Doesn't deal with them great. I think I talked about the choice system in the game where it's like some of the things they say are like, oh, do you want to commit genocide or not?
Just flip the coin.
Well, I wonder. But it also doesn't make out like politics is easy either. They are happy to say like, we can help these people, but there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah.
From either other people, or we're going to deplete our resources, or stuff like that, which is always fun to see because it's a little more realistic. Which isn't why I play these games, but the story was engaging enough to keep me going throughout it. It wasn't an afterthought like a lot of tactics games where you're more there for the battle system. Like, I've not played a Fire Emblem game, but no one ever talks about the story.
I've played I think 2 of them now, Fire Emblems, and it's just a bunch of knights and people on horses fighting each other for power of something. I don't know.
I'm just going to take that voice clip and put it over a Game of Thrones review.
Yes, that sounds about accurate. I could agree to that.
Yeah. But no, I'd definitely suggest this game. I don't know if it's still the case, but when it came out, there was a demo on the Nintendo Switch eShop where you could play the first 2 or 3 chapters, and you can then carry your save over. So for sure, give it a go. If you don't like that part, you're not going to like the whole game.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was a game I enjoyed more. I hope they don't make it a franchise, and if they do, they sort of do the Final Fantasy where every game is like a different universe, different world, things like that.
But you carry over the mechanics, so you're familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is effectively Final Fantasy Tactics, but with a different name on the box. A great name, Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, come on, triangles and octopaths and all these ridiculous
Infinite Undiscovery is my favorite.
Jesus. So wait, I know they announced a sequel for Octopath. Have they even announced a sequel for this yet, or no?
No, honestly, I don't even know how well it did.
Okay.
But if they said we're going to do another one and it's a different, I'd be more than happy. I'd love it.
Okay.
But it's definitely my favorite game. I probably played it for a good 30, 40 hours. There
Okay.
isn't a lot in the way of side stuff to do. You can do side stuff, but it's very basic. I would have liked some more like side quests with actual stories behind them,
Sure.
because like the writing's really good and stuff, but they kind of just had the main story and then just peppered a few things here and there. Just be like, oh, if people want to do some extra stuff, it's there.
Which I think I actually almost would prefer, and that's kind of why, with God of War, going back to that for a second, I think I mentioned this. I really liked it where there is the main story and there are some side missions, but it kind of says like, hey, if you want to do them, you can. You might want to because it'll maybe give you a little bit more of the lore, and it is rewarding, but you don't necessarily have to. And so, but it's not necessarily littered with like collectathon, a bajillion things like some of the other games we've talked about that do that. So I kind of like that almost sort of in between a little bit personally.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not saying like make it necessary to the story or make 100 of them, but you know what? If you have like 20 side quests that actually have a decent side story to them that isn't
Yeah.
necessary for the main plot, I think that's an improvement they could make. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, really enjoyable game. I would recommend just the demo to anyone. It's free.
Mm-hmm.
What have you got to lose?
Right.
At worst, you don't enjoy it and you move on with your life and you're just as rich as you were before.
What a great outlook.
Yeah,
I love
but
it. Yeah.
no,
Yeah, I
so
wish more.
Triangle Strategy was my favorite game of the year. Sorry.
Nice. No, I was just gonna say I wish more games would do that, where you have not just demos, but actual like it'll carry over your progress just
Hmm.
directly into it. I've noticed at least Square has done that with a couple of their games, so I hope more other companies take note because I think that's a good idea for sure.
Yeah. All right. I think I know what you're going to say, but come on. What's
All
your
right.
number one of
So
2022?
after thinking about this for a while, I played a lot of games. There was a lot of build up for this particular one after years of previous titles and lots of fanfare around this particular release. But believe it or not, my game of the year is Shenmue 3. Can you believe it? Look, sorry. Oh, wait a minute. No. Hold on. Wait a minute. I easily get these two games mixed up. Sorry. This is a different open world adventure that has been years in the making. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Completely. My bad. They sound really similar too. My number one game is actually Elden Ring. My bad.
Hey.
So I honestly am surprised, or I shouldn't say I'm surprised now, but like if you were to ask me 10 years ago, would I ever say that a From Software game was my number one game of a year? I would say you're fucking nuts. Because I can't remember if I actually
You
mentioned
drank the
this.
Kool-Aid.
Okay, here's actually I drank some Cabernet Sauvignon. So I can't remember if I mentioned this or not when I talked about my sort of retrospective before Elden Ring of like all the Souls games. But back in college, I tried playing Dark Souls 1, and not only did I hate it, but I broke an Xbox 360 controller into my desk over it because I was so fucking mad at this game. And I swore the games off for a damn near decade. I was like, I'm not playing these games anymore. I hate this shit. Fast forward to last year when I finally said, let me give this another shot. And then I played literally all of them back to back over the course of like 3 months leading up to Elden Ring. And then I played through that. So, and like I said, I can't think of too many times where I have done that much of a flip on either a series or a franchise
Hmm.
or even a genre. Like to me, I think that's amazing when you can have something that might turn you away, but if you kind of revisit it, give it a chance, and appreciate what they're going for, it can be a rewarding experience. And like
I've
I
had,
said, I can believe I'm saying that.
yeah, I've had it with certain games. I've never had it with like an entire genre.
Right, but that's what's crazy because if you think about these games, they're just action adventure RPGs. It's not really a new genre per se, but
Hmm.
it's almost like a different interpretation of the genre where yeah, you're still hacking and slashing. It's an adventure platforming-ish kind of game, but it's so focused in its vision and experience that it feels like a new genre. That's why now people say they're making clones of like Souls games or Soulsborne games. Like that's a genre essentially now. Like games like Neo have tried copying it, or like Mortal Shell, I think, is a recent game. So to me, it's weird that I can't believe that I'm saying this so many years later. Like if I were to ask that person 10 years ago who slammed a 360 controller into his desk playing Dark Souls 1, if I would say that that would be one of his favorite experiences, that past me would be like, you're insane. So obviously, like I played, like I said, through all of those games, but then Elden Ring came out, and that was like a perfect culmination of that experience. And it's, if I remember correctly, I think I logged, last time I checked, like 65 hours into the game. And I believe that is tied with Yakuza Like a Dragon for the longest time I've ever put into a game. Like single play, like not multiple repeats, but like one playthrough. So
we got to get you on Persona 4, mate.
Dude, no. I stopped Persona 5 Royal at 50 hours, and I was like, I'm done. I can't. I'm not even halfway through the game. I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to torture myself to pretend to be a Japanese high schooler.
Look, once you get past 60 hours...
That's the tutorial when that ends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Elden Ring, to be honest, I know I haven't really talked about it in itself, but honestly, like everybody last year covered it. I'm sure if you know what it is, if you're watching this, you've seen it, one game of the year, about a month ago. Like, yeah, this game's incredible.
Thanks to Bill Clinton.
Yeah, exactly. Purely because of his support, as we found out towards the end. Wonder what that kid's doing now. Is he in jail yet? Not sure. Who knows? That guy.
Who knows? I could say stuff. I'm not going to say stuff.
Yeah, that's all good. You make up your own minds. Let us know in the comments where you think that kid is at right now. I know you said, of course, that there's no way in hell you're going to touch these games. Sorry to paraphrase a little.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's all good. I get it.
It just doesn't seem interesting to me, the idea, because I have gone back recently to like old games from like the Mega Drive and SNES, the ones that you used to be able to beat like with your eyes closed.
Yeah, now it's like impossible.
You get beat on the first level of Sonic 2, and you're like, I used to fucking know what button to hit and when. And when you get reset to the beginning again, I'm like, I can't be bothered to do that all over again, and I turn it off. And I don't know how I could do with it. Like,
but to me though, no, I feel that exactly. Like, let me put it maybe a slightly different way. Like, I can now beat these Soulsborne games, but which is an insane like amount of difficulty, and like you have to, like I said before, pay attention and all that sort of stuff. But I could still play Sonic 2 to this day and still get gypped by those games of just bullshit. I feel like that, and I think I may have mentioned this when we talked about it. There's a difference in terms of difficulty where this game isn't necessarily unfairly hard. It's consistently purposefully hard, but you can overcome that. Whereas with a lot of those older games, they're just trying to fuck you over every single time they can. And that's a different kind of difficulty, I guess.
I tell you what else puts me off is the worlds just look disgusting.
They very much are gross. Yes.
Yeah, and like I like Final Fantasy, that kind of medieval stuff. But when you've got these big slimy monsters with goop, I'm like, oh, that'd be sticky.
I will say Elden Ring was a little bit more leaning into the fantasy medieval side, to be fair. But I will give you, like, Bloodborne is disgusting. Like, that game is nasty to like go through. The other Dark Souls games are a bit of a mix. They kind of throw in a bunch of different environments. But Elden Ring was relatively tame, surprisingly.
Like, I hate when you like walk through a sticky bar and your shoes make the noise.
But what if that was in 4K 60 FPS where you could see it? Oh, goodness. So
I'm sure one day I will be bored out of my mind or just in the mood to give it a go. I don't see it in the near future.
No, and like I said, I get it. For anyone who doesn't want to play these games, I was literally that person, so I get it. I can empathize. I think...
This is like when someone tries to convince you to stop drinking.
Look, just one more. Just one more. Try it. Just come on. So, and yeah, I guess without repeating again, yes, I get it. It isn't for everyone, and I can totally appreciate that. But I'm putting it number one because it is memorable. I already do want to go back to it, not just because of the recent multiplayer DLC that they just released, but apparently, supposedly, there's going to be story DLC of some kind coming up. They've hinted at more, so I'm definitely excited. So I will be playing this again, whether the same playthrough or a different one at some point. Like, this is a game that not only is a masterpiece, but I want to keep playing more, which doesn't like after 65 hours, you would think like, God damn, I'm bored. But no, like I actively do want to play this at some point again. So that's why it's number one, unsurprisingly.
So a bit unprompted, and we didn't discuss this.
Yeah.
But what is your most anticipated game of 2023?
Most anticipated. That's tough.
I go first. I'm excited for Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, which we found out both of our pre-orders got canceled.
Yeah.
Fucking jackasses. Thanks, Walmart.
Thanks, Walmart. I just am excited to see that it actually looks like it's took some of the criticism people have had about the series on board, and they're actually doing stuff to address it rather than convince you want something you've never actually asked for.
Nice.
Which is what they've done with possibly the last 2 entries that weren't MMOs.
Yeah, that we have to clarify. Weren't
why they were never just called Final Fantasy Online, I'll never know. But no, so that's my most anticipated. It looks like it's going to be an absolute banger of the year, though. We got Ishin coming out, Hogwarts Legacy.
My God, Dead Space remake coming out at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4 remake coming out.
Forspoken. Don't think I'm getting now, but that's going to be a big game.
Isn't Spider-Man 2 coming out this year?
It's meant to. I'm looking forward to that getting delayed.
Yeah.
We haven't seen. Technically, remake part 2. They've said is next winter.
That's right. The new Zelda is coming out this year.
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, it's going to be a banger of a year.
Like, I'm definitely. Even though I don't need more remakes and remasters, Dead Space and RE4 are some classics that I'm sure are going to be great. I don't know if those are my most anticipated, but I am looking forward to them very much. But I don't know. That's tough. Like, Final Fantasy 16 does look interesting to me. As I've said before, I haven't played very many of them. Actually, on that note, since I did subscribe to PS Plus since it was discounted, I saw Final Fantasy 9 was included, like for as a free download, and I know you've told me to play that before, so I might actually play that potentially sometime in the near future. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Zelda is like too generic to say because I love the the last one was a freaking masterpiece. Like, it was incredible.
I think you can say Zelda if you want to say Zelda.
I guess I'll say Zelda for now. I'm sure I'm forgetting something else that was announced that's probably coming out. I don't think
nearly everything we spoke about is the first 6 months alone.
Right. And if I'm not okay, let me put a little asterisk. Towards the end of last year, they had that Silent Hill event, and I don't think they said anything is coming out this year. If I'm not, I don't think they had dates honestly for anything. But if any Silent Hill, one of those 57 projects they announced in that 30-minute time span, if any of that comes out this year, that might jump to the top just because I've been wanting new Silent Hill for a while. So maybe that's the only caveat. But like I said, I don't think they announced any dates. So
okay, well, it's going to be a fun one.
It is, and I still have shit to play from last year too. I know Disco Elysium I still want to check out. I think there was Callisto Protocol got terrible reviews, but I do want to play it, but I'm just going to wait for a price drop, to be honest. Is there anything from last year that you didn't get a chance to that you do want to play?
I don't know. A lot of the stuff that came out that was big this year that I never played was because I hadn't played previous entries. Like, I do want to play God of War Ragnarok one day, but I just want to go through that series as a whole.
Yeah.
That's, to be honest with you, 2022 video game wise for me was pretty weak. I know we just did our top 3 and I raved about some games, but for the most part, I looked at this year and I was like, weren't the best. but it looks like next year, even the game that is like 8th place might possibly be like something that would have topped my list this year for 2022.
Yeah, and that's why, like I was saying, really for 2022, a lot of the probably a majority of the games I played were catching up on previous years, like the Soulsborne games, or I played like Project Warlock, which is still I remember that's a good one, but that came out like 3 years ago. So yeah, it's nice though to have that lull so you can catch up on that stuff too. But yeah, hopefully this year will be good. I'll be curious if there's any surprises. I mean, is there any like surprise, like last ditch effort you think someone's gonna pull out from somewhere to announce, like any company?
Well, they did say Pikmin 4 was meant to come out this year, but we've seen
Mm,
nothing for like a year or something.
yeah,
But I
that's
love
true.
me some Pikmin.
Another Metroid Prime announcement could be interesting.
Metro Prime 5 gets announced.
Yeah, 4 is still in development for
Yeah.
another decade. We're just gonna skip
We're
it.
getting a Lord of the Rings list.
Ah, my God. Oh, actually, shit. Speaking of that, another honorable mention was Metroid Dread. I played that last year. I completely forgot about that one. That one was really, really good. It's not my typical genre I play through, but I did have a good time playing through that game, I will say.
Okay.
So, but that was fun. But anyways, so we're dragging on here. Either way, so those are our top threes and some honorable mentions and hopes and dreams and wishes for this year. But uh, if any of these games were on your top three list, definitely let us know. Or if you thought that there's other games that we didn't mention or didn't get a chance to play that you would recommend as well, definitely let us know. And if you aren't following us already, make sure to subscribe on here and let us know what you think. But until then, until the next episode, when we're talking about God knows what, stay tuned and we'll talk to you then. All right.
Bye.
Take it easy.